Hello, I hope you're doing well. I haven't done a video on this channel for quite a while, and today I just felt guided to share what I've been going through personally. And that's kind of what I always do, to be honest. It's never really overly planned, it's just something that kind of happens and is almost channeled, if you will. And I've been going through a lot. I've been doing some coaching with Mastin Kipp, who is amazing. If you don't know who he is, be sure to check him out. It's bringing up a lot for me emotionally, and I'm at a point in my life right now where I'm preparing to take a really big leap in my career, but also in my personal life, because it's never just one thing, you know. There's a picture of a wheel that I'm seeing, and I forget what this is exactly. It could be like the Native American wheel in terms of spirituality, but basically everything is affected and everything plays into each other. The physical, reality, spirit, what have you. Like, things are being affected on many levels and layers at all times. And that's not even what I want to get into today, but anyway, today I wanted to talk about soulmates and the difference between soulmates and kindred spirits. Someone who has also been talking about this recently is Jennifer Hoffman, and I really like her work as well, so be sure to check her out too. I'll post some links below to check these fabulous people out. I just want to talk from my own personal experience, as always, and this is not like written in stone facts. I don't even know if that exists in relationships, to be honest with you, because every relationship is different and has its own energy and it has its own healing purpose and what have you. I believe that every single relationship that you encounter has some sort of healing purpose to it, but there is a big difference I'm finding between soulmate relationships and relationships with kindred spirits. And I don't think that the label necessarily matters. I just am trying to differentiate the two. And that's how it comes to me, is saying soulmate versus kindred spirit. If you have a different way of phrasing that or understanding that, that's totally cool, because like I said, it's not written in stone, it's not black and white. Relationships are like pure gray, foggy, like emotions, they're multifaceted, and there's lots going on. So just for clarity's sake and for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to label those two things. And take it as you will and leave the rest. Just take what resonates with you. So there's a huge difference, I find, between these two different kinds of relationships. In my life, I've had so many soulmate relationships. I feel that come with a lot of karma, a lot of triggers, a lot of wounds being reopened, stuff of that nature, okay? So very intense. A sense of soul familiarity, and a sense that, you know, you've known them in a past life and all this stuff. So that's how I would classify a soulmate. How I would classify a kindred spirit would still be a soul family, but I wouldn't necessarily call them a soulmate. I would say they're part of my soul family, my soul tribe, but I wouldn't call them a soulmate for this reason, because even though they are also familiar to feel, they feel like a familiar soul, you still feel that you've known them in many lifetimes and you feel very comfortable with them. But the difference is, they're not poking you, they're not triggering you, they're not ripping the band-aid off and pouring salt in your wounds like a soulmate would. So basically, I think that the soul agreements are just different. If you want, you could probably call all of the above that I just mentioned soulmates, and maybe you just have different contracts with these soulmates. I don't know. Maybe you could phrase it that way. But like I said, today I'm just going to say like soulmate versus kindred spirit, just for simplicity's sake. So yeah, I've dealt with a lot of relationships that are soulmates, that are hardcore, intense, and bring you to the deepest of your deep, the darkest of the dark. And what I've found is that even though that's really profound healing work, we're kind of moving into a time right now where I think less of that is needed. And I think we're starting to meet new members of our soul tribe and members of our soul family that are kindred spirits. And they play the role that is much different. From what I've experienced, they play the role of being a mirror to you. They hold up a mirror and they just radiate so much love and so much light and so much peace to you, so much acceptance of who you are. And they're not, like I said, they're not poking you. Soulmates are like, I'm gonna poke you, and I'm gonna poke you and poke you and poke you, and like keep touching your bruises and your wounds and get you to heal because we have mutual things to heal together and we have karma we need to play out. A kindred spirit is kind of like, I'm just gonna sit here and hold this mirror and love you unconditionally, and I'm human, and maybe we'll have a few like disagreements throughout this lifetime, but not really. It's pretty chill. I'm gonna just hold this mirror for you and be the light and be your cheerleader. They have hands up. They're not poking. Their hands are up. They're like either holding a mirror or they're like, rah, rah, I have this huge, these huge pom-poms for you, cheering you on as a cheerleader. Two totally different things. And I've been trying to understand like a few relationships that I have in my life right now that are kindred spirits. And I'm like, well, I don't even know how to handle this because, they can be connected to your soul mates that you've had really shitty times with, Oftentimes they're interconnected, which is really funny, but they're not there to play the same role. So I have like a couple people in my life that I love unconditionally, that I have no doubt whatsoever that I've had previous lives with. No doubt about it. Like, just feel so comfortable with them. I am so emotionally vulnerable with them, and I feel safe doing so. It's never like super comfortable ever to be a really vulnerable human being for me anyway. But, nonetheless, I feel like they are people I can confide in. I feel like there are people that are there and that have been there for me through thick and thin over the past few years and hopefully continuing on. And I think that's what I'm getting into as well, just like the current energies. We're in June already of 2016, and I think a lot of people are leaving and a lot of people are, like, some people are staying, and we're trying to figure out, okay, who's coming with me in the next leg, in this next chapter, because we're all starting new chapters right now. And I feel that kindred spirits are much more likely to stick around because there's not as much karma there. That's not to say you've never had past lives together. That's not to say that, they serve no purpose. They serve a really great purpose. But it's a lot more like chill. It's a lot more easy. It has a nicer flow and feel and energy, and it's not so much as a soulmate where sometimes you're just like walking on eggshells or you just want to punch them in the face, So it's something that's really, really interesting to try to understand. Because if you've dealt with soulmate after soulmate after soulmate and traumatic event after traumatic event after traumatic event, and then being poked in those areas over and over again, and that's kind of what you're accustomed to when you're dealing with kindred spirits, even if you've known them for a long time, you can get to this point where you're like, well, what's the point of our relationship? Because we're not really playing anything out that's very intense or very deep. That's not to say I don't talk to them about deep things, because I absolutely do, but they're not really there for the deep purging healing that we've experienced with soulmates. They're just kind of there for you as a support system, as a cheerleader, as I said, for when you are going through that kind of shit with a soulmate. And they're also there through the high moments as well, They're just there. They're just supportive. They're just love. And I think that's something to be really, really grateful for. So, note to self and note to everyone else, if you're dealing with not karmic relationships, if you're dealing with kindred spirits, you don't need to try to force them to be a soulmate and try to create problems when there are none. I think I was starting to do that a little bit. And it's just not necessary, Like, why are you going to create a problem when there's no problem? It's a little bit silly, don't you think? I also just think it's a habit, because we're creatures of habit, and I think that in relationships, I'm a little used to dealing with the harshness of soulmates and karma and what that brings, and it brings up a lot, and I've just dealt with that to such a crazy extent, to such a crazy degree, that having now mostly kindred spirit relationships that are so peaceful and easygoing, I'm kind of like, really? That's not to say I'm not doing any hard inner work, because I'm always doing inner work and I'm always healing and always growing. But now I don't really have people that are triggering me. I have people that are just supportive of me as I'm doing my inner work. And that's great. And that's something I should be really supportive of, and something I should be thankful for. and grateful for, and I think I should just see it as a blessing. So I encourage you to do the same. And if you're like ending a lot of soulmate relationships right now, I understand how brutal and how tragic that can feel to your heart. I really do. But just keep in mind that kindred spirits exist, and they're there just to be the light, to be the love for you, to support you through thick and thin, through highs and lows, and to just be like a cheerleader and to be a positive mirror reflection back to you of the light and the love that you are. That's not to say that we should shit on soulmates and hate them, because they play a really, really, really important role for us too. And I believe that we agree before coming into this life what kind of thing we need to play out with certain people. So there are soul contracts that need to happen, and some of them need to be rough, and some of them need to end, and that's okay. But I'm just here today to bring light to this whole kindred spirit thing, because I think it's awesome, and I should really just appreciate it instead of saying, well, why aren't you acting like a soulmate? Why aren't you poking me? Like, poke me. It's like, no, why do you need them to do that? You know, I'm not the Pillsbury Doughboy, and I don't need to ask you to constantly poke me in all of these uncomfortable areas. So, anyways, that's my video for today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.